All right, good evening, everyone. I am Grace. I'm your host tonight. Again, we're coming to you from ALX Community on the waterfront in Old Town. It's a great shared working space, so if you need a place to work from home, away from home, it's on the waterfront. Check it out. Sorry, there was a little bit of technical difficulty going live, so we're not on the scheduled link for tonight. So we're still available on our Facebook page, our regular news feed, so you can find the live video there. But tonight we have Kathy Kelly and Joe Proctor of Shenandoah Caverns, and we are going to meet them. We're going to talk to them about the history of the caverns, about the history of the entire property, because there is a family of attractions on the property. And I actually got to spend the weekend there a couple weekends ago. Kathy and Joe took me around the whole property, and they were amazing hosts, and the whole place was beautiful, and it's just seeped in history and nature. So let's bring them on so we can take a virtual tour. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Joe. How are you guys?
I'm doing fine.
Good. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. I am excited to be speaking with you guys again. The last time we met, we were at the caverns, and I got to experience everything that you guys had there. So I guess let's just start from the beginning. Let's start with the history of the property, how the caverns were discovered.
Well, Kathy, I'll let you go first.
No, Joe, this is you. You're the history, baby.
Well, I was born and raised on the property here at Shenandoah Caverns. This beautiful attraction opened to the public in May of 1922. So 99 years into the business, we have shown this caverns to millions of people around the world and across our country. This cave was discovered during the building of the Shenandoah Railroad, or the Southern Railway that went through Shenandoah County. And the family that owned this property, their name, or the gentleman's name, was Abraham Neff, and he owned about 200 acres of farmland here. And in 1884, the Southern Railway was being built and constructed. And due to that construction, a small rock quarry opened a crevice into the Shenandoah Caverns. Now, the Neff brothers had to do what boys do best. They had to go and play in that rock quarry, and that's how Shenandoah Caverns was discovered. So that's a little bit about the beginning part of it.
And I know when you told me the story about the boys, like, just sitting down into the hole, what they had, just a rope and maybe like a lantern, right?
Oh, that's true. They climbed down 275 feet with just a candle and maybe some oil lanterns. And the unique thing about it, they probably didn't have any idea of just exactly how beautiful Shenandoah Caverns is, because the candle doesn't let off a whole lot of light. You visit Shenandoah today, we have well over 2,500 light bulbs lighting this caverns. And of course, one of the things we do, we're working to keep things green, as they say, because we have gone to all LED lighting. It makes the caverns look spectacular.
Oh, absolutely. I remember being there, and just first of all, seeing the caverns itself was incredible. But then you switched off the lights at one point, and it was so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. So
Well, that's exactly right.
I can't imagine being like a 12-year-old kid, like, let's climb down this hole with a rope and a lantern, and then
Stop and think about it. A 12-year-old is one who's probably going to have guts enough to climb down a hole that's
that
only
is
about
true.
only about this big around, just barely big enough to squeeze into.
Yeah, that is
And that's
true.
how they
Good for you.
And so when they climbed down in the hole and they found, like, oh my gosh, there's a cave, there's a system of caverns down here, what was next for the history of the caverns?
Next on the history, a few years went by. There was a local gentleman, businessman by the name of Hunter Chapman. He was very interested in opening a tourist attraction in the Shenandoah Valley. And when he heard about the caverns being right beside the Southern Railway, he got very excited because he had stock in the B&O Railroad. To make a long story short, he approached Mr. Neff in about 19 and asked if he would sell the farm to him, which occurred. And Hunter Chapman built a full service hotel building here right on top of the caverns. People visited here by train from Northern Virginia, DC, and the Baltimore area. And the train traveling the valley was very popular for years. The building that you're seeing right there, that is the Caverns Hotel building that I am sitting in right now. It's gone through quite a few changes over the years, but everything is above the ground changed a little bit, but I can assure you the cavern is still as beautiful as it was the day it was discovered.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit earlier. So that hotel has gone through what, like now 10 renovations, and it used to be 3 stories tall. So
Right.
over all of the changes that happened, I know Kathy, your father, ended up owning the caverns at one point. So tell us how he came to ownership.
Well, my dad was started in the business building floats, and they have an apple blossom parade here in Winchester. And the owner of the caverns wanted to have a big fancy float, and somebody said, call Earl Hargrove. And he did. And Dad loved it so much, he said, if you ever want to sell this cave, let me know. And sure enough, he called Dad, and Dad made it happen. And that's how he ended up with a cave. And now he houses his floats here. He wanted to, the cave is beautiful. I mean, it's so beautiful. It's so natural. But he built a second attraction, and it houses the floats that Dad built. And I helped build a lot of these floats myself from every presidential inaugural since Truman. And it's just such history. And as an adult or a child, when you walk into this building, you have no idea how tall these things are. And people come and they just don't realize it, and they go through it and their eyes just, wow. So, and then my dad passed away 6 years ago, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to uh, keep the legacy alive, and it means a lot to me.
Yeah, first of all, hearing the history of the entire cave, but the history of Earl Hargrove specifically, that was an amazing history to me because his life, it was such a storied life and it was such a unique life. I mean, it's not every day you meet someone who builds parade floats, let alone, but who has done all of the inauguration floats. And you have all of those floats on the property. And you said they're larger than life. It is hard to fathom how big they are. You have to actually go there and see them on the property.
Well, you talking about those parade floats, every time I walk through our attraction, the American Celebration on Parade, I think of Earl Hargrove, and something he told me has stuck in my mind for a long time. I love to see people smile. When I drive those parade floats down the street and I see the smiles on those children's faces, it makes my day and it makes me feel so happy. And he was very, very excited about bringing that feeling of happiness to Shenandoah Caverns. And I can't think of any other place in the United States that has a beautiful natural cave like this, where that also houses on the property 20 of some of the most spectacular parade floats that I've ever seen.
Oh, of course. And there was a quote that you told me, Joe. And when the parade floats were put on the property, when that attraction was put on the property, it was a man-made attraction. Earl said, now we have the best of what God can do and what man can do all in one place. And I think that's so true. I want to pull up this one picture because I think this was my favorite in the American celebration. And it is the big American flag that your dad did.
There's a lot
It's
of
beautiful.
history that goes behind that flag, but we've got way too little time to tell it all.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of that, so your dad also has a book. Tell us a little bit about that.
Dad always wanted to write a book, and he he right before he died, we finished that book, and I know you have a copy of it. It has all of his stories in it. It has his life from childhood, and has a lot of it, all the children, there are five of us. Each one of us has a section in the book that talks about certain things that we do with our father. And it's really special.
And so, is that book something that people could buy when they come to the caverns, or is it available online to purchase?
Not right now, but we'll see what happens.
Alrighty. I know you guys have a lot of big things planned for the caverns. Since we're talking about Earl Hargrove, your father, let's talk about the Airbnb that you guys have on the property. It's called Earls Place.
That's exactly right. And that house is a very historical part of Shenandoah Caverns because that was the home place of Abraham Neff. That's where he ran his 200-acre farm, was in that house and around that area. And throughout the years, the house, we always kept it because it is such a historical part of what we do. About 10 years ago, I guess, 5 or 6 years maybe, we decided to turn it into an Airbnb. And we wanted, people to be able to enjoy that historical history. But Kathy's dad, Mr. Hargrove, when he would come down here to visit, he'd love to stay in that house. And, we just started calling it Earl's Place because he loved it so much. And we think the name's very appropriate.
Yeah, and so when I was walking through Earl's Place, I noticed that there are a couple of features that stand out. One was the stained glass, and that is antebellum. That is original to the home, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Right.
Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, just to be inside of a building that has been on the property since before the war. I mean, it's really hard to take in that much history. And then another thing that stood out to me was actually they were lights. And I'm going to pull up a picture.
Oh, Joe, you know this.
Let's see, I've got a lot of pictures here, guys, so bear with me. Here we go. Yeah, so these lights. So, yeah, tell us where these actually came from.
Well, they are in all of the bedrooms at Earl's Place, but those are the actual light fixtures that came out of the Shenandoah Caverns Hotel. And in 1957, part of this building was damaged by a fire, and all of those light fixtures were taken off the ceiling by my father, who was general manager at the time, and we kept them. And then he gave them to Mr. Hargrove, who restored them, and now we are using them again in Earl's Place. So everywhere that you turn on this property, there's history, and I could tell you stories that would go into next week.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I know. Well, I mean, because I was there for a whole weekend, and I mean, that wasn't even enough time. And you can stay there for a weekend. You can book the Airbnb for just a night.
Mm-hmm.
You can book it for a weekend, or you could go to the caverns just as a day trip. So you guys are located right off the highway, right off of 81 and then exit 269. And it's
Well, just for the followers out there that are listening, if you're interested, go to Airbnb and look up Earl's Place. The actual community is called Quicksburg, so maybe the quickest way to find it is to look up, because everything works by GPS. Make sure you check under Quicksburg and Earl's Place, and you'll find it at Shenandoah Caverns.
Yes. And it was an easy find. Like, I drove up there. It was like a 2-hour drive from DC, and you could easily make it a day trip if you're in the area and you're just touring, or if you're just passing through the area, just take a quick turn off and take a tour of the caverns, tour the property. It's literally a mile off the highway. It was really convenient to get to.
That's one of the beauties of where we're located. We are not even a mile off of the interstate. And once COVID restrictions get better, we are the only cavern that has an elevator. Now we're using the 79 steps. And my tour guides are in very good shape, by the way. But it is so close to Northern Virginia, Richmond, and it's just a great feel-good family trip.
It is. It's a feel-good family trip. It has things for everyone, every kind of family, every member of a family. I know you guys have a little sluice outside for kids to go dino mining in, and you actually have a selection of wine. So you partner with some vineyards in the area. And I know I have a photo also of some of the wine that you guys sell.
There it is.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind the names of these wines.
Well, we have three wines. We have a Riesling, which is kind of a sweeter wine. We've got the Chardonnay, a dry white, and we have the red. And we have certain attractions or names of the rooms in the cavern. And one of the most famous ones is Diamond Cascade, where people have actually been married in front of that formation. So therefore, it's the Cascade Chardonnay. And then the bishop is the red. And that is a bishop that you have to look for throughout the tour. Another really interesting thing, and it's fun. And then the Riesling is our other famous room called Rainbow Lake. It's called, Rainbow Riesling. There it is. There it is with our new lights. Has several different colors on it. That's not the only one. Oh, and she's got them all.
That's a total reflection. That water is only an inch to 2 inches deep, but looks at 6 to 8 feet at times.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, and I know your tour is a little bit shortened right now just because of we're all coming out of the pandemic, so you did have to adjust operations. But I did get the pleasure of seeing Rainbow Lake, and it was almost like a mirror. It wasn't even like water. It was so crystal clear, and it reflected all of the stalactites beautifully. And so I'm really grateful that I got to tour that part of the cavern, and I got to see the bishop, and the tour guides will play like little games, like ask you little trick questions as you're going through the tour. So it's a fun tour. It's interactive, and you'll get to see a lot of neat things that you will never see anywhere else besides this cavern.
Well, touring the caverns, like you were just saying, our tour guides, we try to give an educational tour to give you an idea of how the caves form, explain the formations and things of that nature. But a beauty about seeing a cavern like this is the fact that every single time you go in it, you're going to see something different. And it's almost like on a beautiful day watching the clouds go by, you can see different images and things. And it's fun watching, especially the children pick out little things, whether it be something that looks like a bunny rabbit or something of that nature. But the cavern is so beautiful in so many aspects. We talked earlier about the elevator. There we go. That's flowstone formations out of our caverns. Absolutely spectacular. That rises to the ceiling about 50 feet above you. Absolutely spectacular.
Where's the bacon?
There's the bacon. 19 June edition. Everybody go and look in their basements and in their garages and find the June edition of the 1964 National Geographic, and you'll see those bacon formations pictured in it.
Yeah, that was when you told me what the name of it was like light bulb. Like, of course, it was so realistic. It really did look like a large piece of bacon hanging from the ceiling. That was really fun.
I started to mention very quickly, we had talked about the elevator, which you can see the elevator door over my shoulder. I am sitting right in the middle of the cavern's lobby where the tours enter the caverns. And we are going shortly to be back using the elevator on a regular basis. This elevator was installed in 1931, and it was built in Virginia by the Westbrook Elevator Company. It is a historic piece in its own right. But don't worry now. It's inspected by the state every month, so it runs very well.
Yes, I actually, again, that's one of the things that you guys have had to shut down because of COVID, but I got to ride in it because there was just 3 of us and we were vaccinated and it was safe, but you are the only cavern system with an elevator, and I thought that was very smart because it is a very deep cavern.
I wanted to run this by you because this happened yesterday. We had a senior citizen group that visited us. Had 11 people that went in the caverns. I believe 2 were in wheelchairs. The rest were using walkers. And we went down and saw a couple rooms of the cave because we had this elevator. And every single one of those people were just so elated to be able to see that. I think, I was speaking to a young lady who told me she was 91 years old, and she just said this made my whole year. And I said, well, you made my whole day and then some.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. And it's awesome that it's accessible to anybody.
Right.
Like it literally is an attraction for all kinds of people, for all kinds
Accessible
of families.
key. It's a key to what we do here. Accessibility. We're only 1 mile off of Interstate 81. It's so easy to visit here from the Northern Virginia and the DC area.
Absolutely. And so we know that the entrance to the caverns is inside the hotel. You drive up and you see the hotel building and you see like this grassy hill and you're kind of like,
Right.
where's the caverns? But the entrance to the caverns is inside the hotel building. And I want to talk a little bit about what else you have inside of that building. I know that you have a cafe with some pieces that are traditional to the building, and you are currently renovating that cafe. So let's talk about what is coming up for that.
Very good. I want
Joe,
Kathy
you
to
start
talk
with
about
the
this because
history.
this has been
I was going to say, Joe, you talk about the history, how it began, and then I'll take the end part of it.
okay. The caverns, when the hotel opened in 1922, we all had a full service restaurant here. When the hotel closed after World War II, we converted the restaurant to a smaller so-called snack bar or small cafe. Then, for the third time in 1957, a renovation was done, and we installed a uh, soda fountain for making ice cream sundaes and sodas and hamburgers and hot dogs and things of that nature. Very, very reminiscent of the types of uh, the ones the soda fountains like used to have in the old drugstores and things of that nature. A lot of people come in and they see it and their mouths drop open because they have not seen one like that since they were a child. We are keeping all of that aspect, all of the equipment, the soda fountains, everything is still functional. And it really is like sitting down maybe in a little time capsule of its own right. Well, what we wanted to do is to add some extra things to it. And that's what Kathy's going to tell you.
So with COVID and everybody wanting to be outside and not in a small area, we are actually creating a 50-foot by 50-foot patio, concrete patio that will go off of our cafe. And we've given the cafe, the inside part, a facelift. All new furniture, new painting, new fixtures. And by Memorial Day, we will be open, our cafe will be open, and you'll be able to go out in this parking lot that used to be a parking lot, and it was not flat, but it will now be flat. We'll have picnic tables out there, and we're just so ready for people to come out and enjoy us, and we're going to feed them a good meal. It's just going to be great.
I know I'm excited for the new cafe to be constructed, and I know like summer's coming up, and so the patio is going to be great for outdoor dining. Maybe between tours, the kids can go out and play in the sloughs while the parents are maybe enjoying a meal or a glass of wine out on the patio.
Can I interject here?
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the thing about the cafe. This can be a complete day trip. You can come, you take a tour of the cave, come out, you get some lunch, something to drink, you go out and do the sluice, and then you wander down the hill and you go through the celebration with all the floats, and then you go to the Yellow Barn, which we haven't talked about, another attraction on the property, and it can be a real good day trip.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Yellow Barn. That is another one of the attractions in the family of attractions. And that is, tell us what that venue is mainly used for.
Well, my dad collected everything under the sun and back, and we forgot to say that in the cave building on the second floor, there is called Main Street of America, and they're old figures from department stores at Christmas time. And he had acquired these years and years ago and got to a point in his life where he kind of recreated them, retooled them, and they're all up there. You've got the Cinderella carriage, you've got the circus theme, you've got just beautiful animated things that nobody knows anymore. So to take your children up there and see something so magical is pretty good. And then, of course, he wanted to have somewhere to put his floats. And then he also collected a lot of carriages and farm equipment, and he refurbished them all and opened up this building where we have most of these refurbished things. We have a beehive, and it was sort of kind of like an agricultural type building. But what we really mainly use it for is for events. You can have weddings there. You can have meetings. You can have concerts. I mean, your imagination can go anywhere it wants to go. It's a very large space, and it's uh, it's there for anybody who want to use. The weddings are going to be great, and they're coming back.
Yes, and so you saw the inside of the venue. I showed some pictures, and there are like Model Ts in there. You mentioned the beehive, and then outside of the yellow barn, you have a whole garden, and you have chickens, and then you have goats, and
Yeah,
those are really
lots
cute.
of goats.
I'll pull up some pictures of those.
The goats are very happy there. The chickens, there are like many different varieties. People like to get married out there in front of the barn. It's just a big, wide open area. It's just great for families to come to.
Yeah, it was very
I'll tell you
picturesque.
something funny. You want to hear something funny?
Always.
Uh,
We have done we have done lots of weddings at the Yellow Barn. We've done them outside. We've done them inside. Almost everyone comes there because they want that country feel. They want to be outside and with the rolling hills behind you and the scenery. Well, I had one young lady a couple years ago. She all of a sudden became very upset because when they were doing their rehearsal, every time that she started talking, the rooster started crowing. And she wanted to know if I could make the rooster stop crowing. Have you ever tried to make a rooster stop to crowing?
It was
Um,
crowing when I was there, and I don't know if you can make him stop.
I think that I think the rooster was doing it on purpose because,
That's what they
anyway,
do. They're
I told
roosters.
her, I reminded her that now you are getting married at a barn.
Hmm.
So, but it all went well. And it's a wonderful place to have these events and these things of that nature. And plus, during the summer months, you can stop by and check out all the historic history that Kathy was talking about. Because I don't think her dad threw anything away. He only wanted to fix things up and make things better.
Well, and that's why you guys ended up with so much amazing stuff, so much historical stuff. And so you can rent out the Yellow Barn for events. And like weddings will be coming back, hopefully, in the summer.
That's right.
So can you rent out the caverns for events?
Sure can. We've had weddings in the caverns. In fact, as far back as about 1925, I believe, was one of the first weddings in the caverns. If you're interested in that, we do very small parties in the caverns. So most people who want to get married in the cave only want to have just their immediate family with them. But we can work that out. And, we've had one or two couples get married in the caverns and then have the reception at the Yellow Barn. So uh, we're prepared any way you want to look at it.
and also the celebration that has the floats, that also has a huge area for weddings or parties. But some of the other fun things that we've started to do with COVID, we've had to shut it down a little bit, but we're going to continue to do it. Wine tasting and food pairings in the caverns after hours. And then we have a discovery tour that we do with the cidery, and a couple other things up our sleeves that we haven't done yet. So stay tuned.
Yeah, I know you guys have some really fun things planned. And that's another thing about Shenandoah Caverns is its location. Not only is it so close to the highway, so accessible for trips, but it is also pretty much in the middle of wine country. So like you guys partner with some wineries, and there are also many other wineries in the area. Like you just mentioned, there's a cidery. So there are things to do within the vicinity of the caverns themselves if you are spending a whole weekend or maybe even a week there.
It's
you can
doable.
spend a lot of times here. If you can think of it, we'll probably help you make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, and I remember being there in my 2 days. It didn't feel like enough. I wanted to stay and I wanted to keep exploring. So there is an article on Shenandoah Caverns in the new Zebra issue that came out on Monday of this week. So go get your copy. They are available for free around Old Town in the red newspaper boxes and around the greater Alexandria area. You can find all of the individual articles on our website and our Facebook and social media. You can find the digital copy of the print issue also on our Facebook. So go check out the story on Shenandoah Caverns, and there is a greater story on just day tripping in general. So that is really fun to explore for ideas, but yeah, go read all about Shenandoah Caverns if tonight didn't give you enough information.
Well, I
Well,
could give
Grace,
you more
thank you so much
information
for
if you
having me.
had time.
I know, I know. I'll have to come back and see you guys so I can get more stories. All right, well, thank you both very much for your time. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad I got to see you guys again and talk to you guys again. And I do hope to come visit soon. I'm going to come back. I'm going to see your brand new patio that you have going on. I'm going to ride in the elevator again when it opens back up. So I'm excited to come back. And I think everyone else should be excited to go explore it if they haven't yet.
We'll be waiting for you.
All right, guys. Well, that wraps up this evening. I hope you guys had fun looking at all of those pictures. There's just so much history and so much nature. Like I've been saying, 2 days, you can do it as a day trip and it's so much fun. There's so much stuff to do for everyone. But I would want to spend like a whole week there, and you could do the Airbnb and just make a vacation out of it. So I'm going to go back in the summer. You guys should definitely check out the article and read more if you need more information on Shenandoah Caverns. But tomorrow night, we have Make It Alexandria with Elisa Kovach of Alexandria Makers Market. She is welcoming Lost Boy Cider. And until tomorrow evening, be the good news in someone's life.